Hello, good evening, and welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics Live on Trust TV. Welcome. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Tonight on the program, we focus on a rising security challenge in northwest Nigeria, where the acting chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, is rallying communities for support against a foreign armed group known locally as Lakurawa. On a critical operational visit, the Chief of Army Staff assessed troops' readiness in the Tangaza local government area of Sokoto State, one of the group's suspected strongholds, and met with local leaders to strengthen collaboration with the Nigerian military. Now, this development comes as the Nigerian Defense Headquarters recently classified Lakurawa as a new terror group tied to Sahelian jihadists, with Sokoto and Kebbi states on the front line. Can the combined efforts of the Nigerian military and communities help secure the region? Joining us for this conversation tonight, help us dimension the issues and its national impact on security, is a man familiar with the insecurity question in Nigeria. He's Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka, retired, a former spokesperson of the Nigerian Army. General, good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us on the program. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
This is an all too familiar conversation, isn't it? Because the insecurity question has been lingering for the past decade or so. But there is a new twist. According to the Defense Headquarters, this new terrorist group is now on the table for the security forces to deal with. What do you make of the emergence of this new group and what it says about our growing security challenges, especially in northern Nigeria?
Indeed, it says a lot, and it's worrisome and disturbing for every well-meaning Nigerian, in the sense that here we are contending with so many security challenges and socio-economic issues, and suddenly you have the emergence of this Lakurawa, terror group, especially again in the hotbox of conflicts, the northwestern part of the country. So it is a very, very disturbing development and worrisome. But come to think of it, the group has been with us since 2017.
Right.
Yes. So, but it's more or less like this is their second missionary journey. And when you are trying to make anything out of it, you have to go back down the history line, the circumstances that brought about this group, the push and pulls that, brought about the emergence of this terrorist group in our country, particularly in the northwestern part of the country.
You say 2017. So when the Defense Headquarters says there's an emergence of this new group, help me understand what they're trying to communicate with Nigerians.
I think what they are trying to do, and which is a good thing, is to alert the public the emergence of that group. Initially, nobody seems to be aware of it, but here it is. And there is no way, whenever you are dealing with issues of this nature and learning from what we have had in the past, particularly in dealing with Boko Haram, the key or the starting point is to get the buy-in of the people. So by the time you communicate to them and make them to understand the magnitude and the implication of that, I think the rest is easy, because there is no way. The security forces are not magicians. They have to rely on the support and the cooperation of the people. But you can understand, the people were forced to do certain things. They have been emasculated, and particularly the border communities. And it is not just in the northwestern part of the country. We have horror borders, and apart from that, the border community seems to be neglected. And these criminal elements take and do advantage of it to, perpetrate their nefarious or criminal activities. So there are so many things to take into consideration. I think it is a good thing. And one other thing, you have even made reference to the fact that the acting chief of Army Staff has started hitting the ground running by going there physically today and interfacing with those communities. And I know before he even went there, security forces were all over the place, and concerted efforts are being made, by the services, Air Force, Navy, and Army. And of course, the new commander of Pansanyama, there is a more or less a joint task force, in addition to a division of that is there. So basically, there is a kind of massing up. So, but the most important thing is to get the buy-in of the people, for them to cooperate, to understand, to help in dealing with this. But it is even far beyond those things. We have to embark on constructive engagement with our neighboring, because basically they are border communities. The border border is porous, and there are proliferations of, small and light weapons, and so on and so on.
Do you think this correlates with the recent gaps that we seem to be experiencing, especially on the regional level, where the Chadian government expresses concerns about the collaborations with the multinational joint task force? Do you think these gaps are some of the reasons why these groups are, springing up across all of these different countries, where the insecurity seems to be the common denominator?
Yeah, quite right. It is not just that. You have to look at even, the spread of violent extremism across the globe. They tend to take advantage of complex situations. And that is why even originally, this new terrorist group, they were not from Nigeria. They came all the way from Mali, not even Niger or Chad, that are neighboring countries here. So you can understand the conflicts elsewhere has corresponding impact on the Nigerian society. We have seen how weapons left Libya and came this way, and the impact of Malian conflicts, now we are experiencing it, and now Central African Republic, and the fact even Sudan too. And now, given the international dimension, you remember, there are coups in some of these African countries, and of course the relationship has been sour with ECOWAS and Nigeria and so on. So the level of support and cooperation is not the way it's supposed to be. So these are the international dimension that we have to look at. And I made inference to it.
Yeah, you don't think those disconnections, those divergences are largely political? Do you think it also affected the military cooperation?
Security, because you have to look at it. Let's even look at the two local governments that are heavily involved in this kind of thing, Gudu and Tangada. They are border local governments with where? Niger Republic, Konya and all the rest, and there are historical and religious, cultural affiliations. So these are the issues that you have to take into consideration. And again, beyond the international dimension, original dimension, there is also local issues. Initially, the problem in Zamfara state snowballed or spiraled into Sokoto state, particularly those communities, and that was what brought about the Lakurawas initially to checkmate the activities of the bandits across those societies. And eventually, not knowing that they have ulterior motives, that they are just an arm to international, Islamic states of the Greater Sahel.
Right. You likened the situation to the Boko Haram phenomenon that we had to deal with in the early 2010s, that continues to be a problem today. Do you think that there are credible similarities between these two groups?
Yeah, the similarities are there. They are trying to exploit religion, and the fact that they don't initially. If you look at how Boko Haram started, it did not start as a violent extremist group. They were preaching, but of course there are triggers, there were push and pulls. Eventually it emerged as a most deadly terror group, not only in Nigeria, in fact, among the world ranking. So it's the same thing, more so that there is affiliation with other international terrorist groups. So these are the kind of similarities, but most importantly, exploiting religion. And if you look at it, the communities under which they operate, they are trying to impose strict Sharia law, flogging people, collecting zakat, even smashing handset that has music inside it, and so on. So going to the extreme. And beyond that, again, they are even collecting taxes.
Yeah, but Brigadier General, just look at the pictures. We can roll the video again, which is something that's been circulating around. Clearly, you talk about how they are not necessarily indigenous to Nigeria, for instance. These are clearly people that you can easily cite in Sokoto or in Kebbi State, where they have become notorious with regards to their operation. A lot of people would say it's easy to fish them out. Why is this so complicated from the security standpoint?
Well, I made mention of the words. The border communities are emasculated.
Right.
In the sense that it was a desperate situation. They had been harangued by the bandits. And somewhere, somehow, somebody thought it is wise to bring in another group to checkmate the other group.
There were reports that they were invited. Is that what you're alluding to?
Exactly. So basically that is...
They were invited as a solution.
It's a solution. those are the stories. So basically, it is very, very difficult. And most importantly, it is not just the ordinary man on the street. There were people that were involved that are highly respected and credible. Unfortunately, some of them are no longer alive, so they cannot tell the story. May their soul rest in peace. But basically, that is it. So sometimes you don't blame the people simply because you look at the issue. It's just like the basic solution and one-stop solution to kidnapping is refusal to pay ransom. You know it. But it is easier said than done. So you can understand the circumstances of these communities. Now they are neglected. And if you just even look at the human, the developmental index in the state, Tangeza, I think, has 9-something%. Angudu has 57%. So automatically there are indices of neglect and so on that this terrorist group bank on. And apart from that, they have succeeded in terrorizing them that you cannot be able to say anything. You can, but they have three things to their advantage. They have weapons, and they are using technology, and they are highly mobile. Now, several reconnaissance have been carried out. Way back even to the 2017 that we are talking about, the police issued a statement that they only saw herders. Of course, but the key word, the red flag was that they were armed. But this time around, even the cattle are not there. So these are the issues. But now, if you are in that community, you have been coerced into silence. And of course, they are maintaining absolute surveillance on you. Anytime they said you say anything, they will report back to them. The next day, they will look for you, they won't see you. So what do you expect them to do? So that is why I said the starting point, and I think they have started on a good note, in the sense that constructive engagement of these communities and assuring them. But most importantly, again, to see how best you can amass the security forces wherever they identify, you deal with them. But then again, we need the cooperation of our neighboring states, countries, so that they will help, because they come across other countries before coming to Nigeria.
Do you think other countries are looking at this and now saying, well, this is your headache now, and it's all man for himself at this point and God for us all? Is that the body language of some of these countries?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because if not anything, Boko Haram has shown us otherwise.
But how did they make it across the border? I mean, if we can agree that our borders are porous, I mean, what about Niger? Are their borders porous?
So that is why the issue of cooperation come into play. Possibly they are not even aware. And of course, you look at the landmass of that country, it is very difficult to police too. They have their own problems they contend with. Basically, I remember that these cultural affiliations, and one interesting thing, and sometimes even the bandits that we have, sometimes they will go in numbers to attack. You hardly see them. And if they move tactically towards their objective, when they are coming back with, either stolen cows and abducted human beings, the movement will be different. And yet they will be able to go back to their camps. So these are the issues. A lot of people, first and foremost, there is issue of this war economy. It's an economic system that revolves in any complex situation in which quite a number of people, for different reasons, are benefiting from it.
The chaos merchants.
Call it whatever you want to call. That is issue number one. And secondly, whenever you see all these non-state actors, they are just filling a vacuum. A vacuum in the sense that they exploit. Somebody faulted the issue of fault lines. Take, for instance, the porous border, the level of literacy, the
poverty. We also understand that they are trying to incentivize young Nigerians
in fact, there is a long-term relationship to the point that there is intermarriage, and some people have even joined up. Part of to swell up their ranks from the communities that. And if you even look at it, particularly in Ballet, in good local government, right? The district, one of the district head's son, unfortunately he died. He was involved, allegedly he was involved, and when he died in a fire incident, they demanded for the money that he was keeping for them to the tune of 63 million naira. And of course the father said no, that the money is now for inheritance and all the rest. He was brought out of his palace and shot right in front of the people.
Right. We saw the horrific killings of at least
So
15
basically,
people.
these are the issues. Now, that send a message. If they could do that to such a person, who are you that you will not, you understand the fear and the apprehension?
How entangled is the situation, especially when we talk about the community? We're going to get the soundbite of the acting chief of army staff when he spoke to the communities in Sokoto State. But in sticking to the developments in Kebbi, we're seeing some of the pictures there from the attack that led to the killing of at least 15 people. How entangled are some of these volatile, at-risk communities? How exposed are they?
Very, very exposed. It's a complex issue. It's a complex issue because of the affinity that I've thought. You know, the religious, the cultural, and all the rest. But of course, the people made concerted effort, you know, to solve the problem. But unfortunately, it was rather too late and too little. Now that the authorities have known, I think there is a need to sit down and fashion out a way to deal with them. First and foremost is issue of assurance, and make sure it is not just enough you give information, but the information has to be acted on. And those who are going to act on the information, they should have the resources to do that expeditiously. Now, you have to take into cognizance the terrain itself. Even though the rains have gone, but that terrain itself, it is not easy for vehicular movement.
Doesn't that then beckon on the Nigerian Air Force to do the needful?
So what I'm trying to say is a collective responsibility, right from the community itself, the intelligence community, and those who will react whenever there is such information. And most importantly, I told you, you need to cooperate because they can easily cross to the other side.
Right. Usually we see a tough war when a new group emerges in this type of scenario, right? Whether it's bandits, one bandit group and another bandit group, if you come onto the next person's stuff, there usually is a battle, and they're very good at trying to take each other out because they want to maintain certain dominance. We did talk about how some people thought the Lakurawa were going to be the solution to help you know, the communities get rid of the bandits. Why haven't we seen, in your view, a clash between the Lakurawas and the bandits at full scale to try to maintain control of these volatile communities?
I think the reason is simple. One, I think the other one is evolving, and it has spirit of firepower, because they were able to chase to some extent the bandits, so there is no room for contention. Then the second issue is the issue of ideology. The two are different. This one, they are so determined, more or less they look at themselves as mujahideen. The other one, they are just purely criminal elements, you know, kidnapping, you know, vandalizing, killing, and all the rest of the thing, without clear-cut ideology, except the grievances which were local. You know how the, you know, banditry and kidnapping start. It is purely hardest farmers complex that was mismanaged, because it has been with us over time. And of course, the proliferations of weapons and all the rest, you know, brought about illegal weapons, brought about, you know, the escalation of the conflicts, and of course attitudes and issues that are supposed to be dealt with at local level have not been dealt with at local level. For instance, now every problem is now being lumped to the state government, to the federal government. The local government system is not working anymore. So basically, had it been that the local government system is working efficiently, when they emerge, this local government security committee ought to have done something and impress on the state government, you know, before it escalates to what it has at this moment, or it has become at this moment.
So
these
are we unlikely to
so many complex issues.
Are we unlikely to see bandits fight a tough war with the Lakurawas? Is that unlikely?
Possibly if the issues at stake borders on something that, yes, resources. And more, remember, you know, there is issue of illegal mining and so on and so forth. So, and even among the bandits, you know, there were tough wars. And in fact, there was an instance, quite a number of lives were lost, almost 30, simply because the other bandit group went and stole a sheep belonging to the other group. So it all depends on the issue. But I think it's an evolving issue. The circumstances have not reached the point. We just hope it will not reach, because we are hoping with this concerted effort, the effort that I've seen thus far, I think we can be able to deal with this issue before it escalates into something else, so that we can come back and deal with the other security challenges.
Are you concerned that there could be an alliance between these groups who have different ideological settings?
Yeah, one has to be concerned because as time goes on, more so if they face a threat, they had no choice, because we have seen it even among the bandit groups, and we have seen it with Boko Haram terrorist group, forging alliance in 2016 with Islamic States. So anything could be possible, but I don't think we will reach that point now that everybody is aware of this problem and effort is being made to deal with it. But I think the most important thing is to make sure that the right thing is done, and the lessons that we learned in the Northeast will be brought to bear in dealing with these circumstances in the Northwest.
All right. Good point there to take a quick detour and have a listen to what the Acting Chief of Army Staff had to say during an on-the-spot assessment of the situation in Sokoto State. Here are the thoughts of the Acting Chief of Army Staff.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. What I will tell you at this moment is that, see, there will always be challenges. Now, the issue is, how do we react to those challenges? So one of the reasons why I'm here is to charge up my soldiers to brace up to challenge, and that we shall do.
And I heard you talking to community leaders about the need for cooperation. Will you make this call in a bigger scale to Nigeria generally?
Well, my charge to the community people is for them to support us, because the fact is that Nigeria Army belongs to all Nigerians. And if we don't get their support, we can't succeed. And if we don't succeed, that means Nigeria itself will not be secured. And we need Nigeria to be secured so that we can have economic prosperity.
The Acting Chief of Army Staff there speaking on this new threat to national security. The Lakurawas have been active in parts of Sokoto and Kebbi State. In Kebbi, the devastating impact has cost over 15 people their lives. And of course, as you can hear from the Acting Chief of Army Staff, the Nigerian Army is positioning itself to meet this new challenge head on, so as to reassure the public of confidence in the security of Nigeria. Let's stay in Sokoto State and bring in our reporter on the ground, Abubakar Awal, who alongside the military convoy did visit some of these hotspot communities. Abubakar, thank you very much for joining us on Sunday Politics. What can you tell us is the feeling across some of these areas that you visited vis-a-vis what they think is likely going to happen as far as the solution is concerned?
Well, actually, like you rightly mentioned, the Chief of Army, the Acting Chief of Army Staff was in two places which are, directly affected by the activities of Lakurawa. He visited Tangaza local government area. Specifically, he visited Masallachi. It's just a community that is not far from the Niger Republic. As you know, these people came through Niger. They are largely Arabs. Some of them were Tuareg, and some of them are even Nigerians. So they came and settled in a forest called Sauna Forest, which is between Tangaza, Gudzu, and Guadabawa, and even Ilela. And this forest extended even to Niger Republic. So you see, so it gave them just a direct or free access to Nigeria because of that, of the porous nature of our border. So the chief was in one of the community in Tangaza, and there he addressed he was briefed initially by the theater commanders and the chief and the commanding officer of 8th Division and even garrison commander. So after the briefing, he also addressed the troops there, where he charged them to sit off and see that they have secured the country from this foreign armed group, locally known as Lakurawa. And also from there, he proceeded to the Ilela border community, where he also, charged the troops there to also continue doing what they have been doing to secure the country. And also he sat with the community leaders there and solicited for their support, because according to him, they cannot succeed without their support. And if they don't succeed, then Nigeria is not going to be secured. So I think from what I have seen, the military are really ready to tackle these problems, honestly, because of the kind of equipment I saw in these communities and the kind of, troops deployed to these areas. And also, it's like there's a synergy between the land army and also the air force, because even some air force officer were part of the visit of the COAS.
Right. Right. And Abubakar, talk to me about, deployment there, because Sokoto State a few months ago were, still in the headlines because of what happened in Gobir, for instance. And we saw the Minister of Defense alongside the Chief of Defense Staff visit there, and we saw the ramping up of military operations there that has led to tremendous success. I remember, Halilu Sububu's death was one of those crowning moments there. But what can you tell us about the deployment there, and have there been some sort of operations that might have given the communities there a sense of relief that the military is on ground to address this issue?
Sokoto is having a lot of security challenges because before even the adventure of Lakurawa, they have been experiencing banditry, a lot of killings by bandits, a lot of abduction for ransom, a lot of atrocity committed by these bandits. Most of the areas, the eastern part of the states, are largely affected by this kind of, activities. And we thank God these attacks have been reducing, honestly, because I can't remember when last there's a kind of massive attack on a community by bandits in those areas since the time the Minister of State for Defense visited the area and also assured the people that they are going to do a lot to ensure that that place is safe. So honestly, since then we have been seeing a kind of reduction significantly in attacks in those areas and abduction. So there are even some places that they are no longer before you can't go there, or there are some roads that were closed before that visit. But since his visit, honestly, that road is open and people are being motorists and other road users has been plying that road. Yeah. I'm talking about Gundimi, the road that is leading to Isa from Sokoto.
Right. And
so
Abubakar,
that road is open now.
Yeah. Abubakar, finally, talk to me about the feedback from the communities. I mean, he had an engagement, the acting chief of Army Staff had an engagement with community leaders. He sought their support, collaboration, saying that the military cannot do this alone without their help, without the crucial information they need to get the job done. What are the people on the ground saying about this new threat?
We have been reporting, the people are so worried, about the activities of Lakurawa there because of how they operated. They are operating in those areas because there, the communities that are, very close to that Sani forest, and also very close to, there's one other forest which I forgot the name, honestly. So it's like they are, they are the one taking the shot there. They are the one dictating to the people that are living in those areas. If you do anything, if you misbehave, they will beat you or they will take any action necessary action against you. In fact, there are some places where even their imams, their chief imams are removed because they are not doing what the Lakurawas want them to do. So you see, and in those areas, even if you shape your even if you have any kind of hairstyle, you listen to music, they flock people there. So so the people there are worried. They are worried, and they have been complaining about it, but nothing is done about it. Right. So with this kind of with what is happening now, there's a kind of of relief to them. They know that since the chief of army staff is there, and they know everything is going to be okay.
All right. Okay. Abubakar Awal, thank you so much for the reporting, and we hope to get more updates on this development as the events continue to unfold. Thank you so much for joining us on Sunday Politics. Abubakar Awal, there, our reporter on the ground in Sokoto State, giving us an update since the visit of the Chief of Army Staff, the Acting Chief of Army Staff to Sokoto State in response to this new national threat in northwest Nigeria, especially looking at some of their activities in Sokoto and in Kebbi State. Here with us in the studio helping us dimension these issues is Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka, retired, who's been helping us navigate some of these issues from an expertise point of view. You heard what he had to say there about the plight of the communities and things like that, the location, the various forests and things like that. And I'm sure you're familiar with some of the vegetation there. For the average Nigerian listening, this seems like an open and shut case. We know where they are, let's just go after them. Why is it not as simple as that?
Yeah, well, if you, Awal has just confirmed what I said. I told you about the music and the fact that
the extremist views that they have.
Yeah, exactly, and they have been emasculated and all the rest. And if you recall, I said they had three things to their advantage. One is the issue that they had weapons, and secondly, they are highly mobile, and thirdly, they are making use of technology. In fact, they make use of drones. They have images of so many, so they have this way of getting information. And because of their mobility, nobody seems to know where they are. Let me tell you.
Is there a supernatural element?
I wouldn't know, but the truth is that even as of yesterday, there were reconnaissance carried out in some of those areas. And unfortunately, either by active connivance of some people, they were nowhere to be found. Or maybe they move across the border. And they are highly mobile, just like I told you. And the terrain is not easily navigable. I mean, you know, it is very difficult to assess, particularly by vehicles, except maybe motorcycles and all the rest. So these are the things that contribute to their invisibility. They specialize in camouflage and concealment. And remember, they are coming from Mali. So they are very experienced in conflicts, or so to speak. So basically, I'm not holding, I mean, I'm not giving excuses for them, but it is easier said than done, because the people there, they are the one that will give the information. But the people are being threatened. They are being coerced. You cannot talk. Once you talk, you know what will happen to you. Not just to you, but your family, because they know they are intermarriages. They have infiltrated the community. Right. So these are the issues. But eventually, I said it's a very commendable and reassuring effort for the Chief of Army Staff. In fact, since when the story broke out, I know the effort being done by the government and security forces to ensure that we get to the bottom of this problem. But the most important thing is the processes. Just like the Chief of Army Staff said, problems always happen. But the most important thing, what do you do when such problems happen? Yeah. So that is the most important thing. And let's focus on collective effort. We have the means, we have the resources to deal with this issue. But the starting point is cultivating, you know, the buy-in and the goodwill of the people. But you cannot get that unless you have assured them of protection and the fact that you have a better alternative, you know, to what is pushing the people into that or pulling them to that side.
So it's not enough to come today and chase away the Lakurawas or the bandits and then leave the place.
You have to sustain the effort. Right. Remember, a lot of people have been recruited from such communities. There are intermarriages. So you cannot wish away those things overnight. So there must be concerted effort, you know. So much as you are thinking of the kinetic, you have to think of the non-kinetic effort, you know, the radicalization. Of course, the people have even had instances, they held seminars when they realized they have gone haywire. The religious denominations, the Tijaniya, Qadriya, and Izala, they all converge together to see how best they can do, you know, through sensitization, you know, preventing youth from joining. A lot of efforts have been made. So these are the kind of efforts that will complement the other, you know, kinetic efforts that you are talking about.
Right. So, General, looking at, you know, the activities or the operations of the Lakurawas, do you think they're running away from their base in Mali and Niger and finding safe haven in Nigeria, or are they just expanding their base?
It could be either of the two, but I think it's rather expanding their base.
All right.
Because if they are chased, they wouldn't have even gone back. You remember, they started coming way back 2017, possibly last quarter of 2017, 2018, and now. So where did they go back to? And now they are coming back in large number. So automatically it is not just as if they are being displaced. And I think it is the latter, in the sense that it's part of the expansionist program of the violent extremist terrorist group across the world. You know, remember initially they had the Maghreb, they have West Africa, now they have the Sahel.
And looking at it from a regional point of view, if we just zoom out a little bit, because sometimes we can over-focus on just the Nigerian aspect of it, and this is not something that is isolated to Nigeria as a country. You did talk about the violence across not just this part of West Africa, but also up north. Whether you're talking about Libya, you come down to Sudan, a variety of other issues there, Central African Republic and all of that. Do you think there is a concerted effort to address this issue? I know we do have the Multinational Joint Task Force, and it's been in existence for quite some time now. Do you think it's still fit for purpose to address the growing security challenges that we see in pockets and to a large extent across the region?
Well, I think but I would rather say it is the best way. Because Nigeria alone cannot solve this problem, because it's trans-border. In fact, just like they said, terrorism does not respect border. So much as it is in Nigeria, and remember they, go across the border, and the images you saw, they are not indigenous to any Nigerian community. So automatically, you need the support and the cooperation of the neighboring countries. And how do you do that? You need a platform or a kind of multilateral or bilateral agreement. Other than that, you will have a problem. So I wouldn't know beyond the Multinational Joint Task Force if there is anything of such. But the most important thing is we require the collective efforts of the whole of the regional group of West Africa, Lake Chad region, in fact the African continent itself and the world at large, to see how best we can mitigate this violent extremist group before they grow into something else.
Where does the global north, the United States of America, France, come into this equation? I suppose the military takeover in Niger last year didn't help because the Americans and the French troops were chased out of the country. But do you think they would be invested in this problem as part of a solution?
They will, because they have investment in Africa. And when you look at the security challenges, in case if there is humanitarian problem beyond the magnitude we have in this country now, there is no country in the world that can take up refugees of the large number of Nigerians that we have. So everybody would like to see a stable Nigeria or a stable West Africa or African continent as to why, even though they have their own interests that they want to protect. But of course, I can understand even with those people. Sometimes it was all motion without proper movement. They have the technology. You remember, certain time at the heat of the fight against insurgency and terrorism, we are slapped with Lehi law. We are denied the needed weapons and the intelligence required to deal with this issue. And of course, the Nigerian security forces were more than ready and willing, because they have shown the determination. So these are some of the problems. So I think the most important thing is for people to understand this, then to make efforts to ensure that these people that have the means to assist, they assist in a term that is, agreeable to us, so that we can deal with this security challenge. Because the problem is that the fact that Nigeria is in trouble and you assume that you are secured, even if you are not in Africa, you are making a mistake. Because there are Nigerians all over the world that could mount pressures, and they are even in policy positions and all the rest. And they still have not lost, their link with Nigeria. That is even one. And again, we have organs and mechanisms that are meant to ensure peace and stability across the world. So these are the things. But most importantly, whenever there is human suffering, it behoves on each and everyone to ensure that they mitigate that. Forget about the other norms of international relations about interest and what have you. So these are the more compelling reasons why they need to support us whenever there is need for such support to ensure that the problem is dealt with.
Initially, when we started this conversation, you pointed out some of these structural challenges that have created an environment for situations like this to thrive. You started with local governments being not as functional as they're supposed to, which created a gap, the economic gap or precarious situation that most communities are in, which allows for groups like this to flourish because they can exploit and they can also explore some of these structural gaps. Talk to me about what you think the state governments can do to address these non-kinetic measures that we need to address. Rising poverty is at an all-time high, not just in the country, but especially in the north. We talk about out-of-school children. Again, a very heavy northern challenge. You talk about displacement. You talk about the current economic climate. Much of that pressure is still in the northern part of the country, especially in the northwest. How can state governments step in as a collective to address this? Because, I mean, we had the recent Northwest Peace and Security Summit last year. Critics say it didn't amount to anything. But recently, we've seen the governors come together every now and then to discuss regional challenges and regional problems. And security is top on that list. Where do you see them stepping in their own micro way to address this particular challenge?
Already you have mentioned the solutions. We are talking about the high level of illiteracy. So, and I was made to understand the number of secondary schools between Gudu and Tangada. I think they are dismal. I don't know the number of primary schools, but the starting point is to improve literacy level, and most importantly, again, is to improve the socio-economic well-being of the people, so that those push and pulls will not be there for people to be accommodating or to be part of these nefarious activities by criminal elements, either Lakurawa or bandits or what have you, because it offers certain alternative and incentive. But when the government is there and seems to be doing, and there are certain things actually that are beyond the state government, but they should also do the little they can in terms of those assurances. But the most important thing is improvement in good governance.
Right.
When there is dividends of this in terms of infrastructure, the rural-urban migration will be minimized, and people will get a better sense of belonging. Whenever there are problems, they will come to the government rather than resorting to self-help. But most importantly, again, is to ensure that you position the community to be able to, discharge those duties by assuring them, improving the security. Because there is no way you can come up with infrastructural development when the environment is also not secure. So I see a situation whereby they go into collaborative effort with the federal government and security forces, and of course jointly. Because whenever, the problem in Zamfara state, it was the one that spilled over to Sokoto state that made the Lakurawas to come. And had it been that there was synergy of effort right from day one, the issue could have been contented in Zamfara state before it spilled to Katsina and other states, or even Sokoto state, to the extent that we have a third, criminal element operating in our environment. Now, not only Sokoto state, it has moved up to Kebbi. Then you have to kind of strengthen the security architecture, especially in the state, by involving those traditional rulers and community leaders and the youth group.
Yeah, but just to take you up on that, since the emergence of the current administration in Sokoto State, for instance, he has indicted tens of traditional leaders whom he said have been a part of the criminal empire that is the banditry that is affecting the particular state, for instance. How do you then purge the system of, informants, of all these people that were supposed to be community leaders who are above board, but have been, caught or allegedly have been involved, as you stated earlier, that they've been intertwined in this situation for such a very long time, intermarriages and things like that, to a point where it's very hard to separate, which is which.
You see, leadership is a very difficult thing, but very, very simple. In the sense that dealing with that, what happened to the rule of law? What happened to the rule of law? If you suspect someone for doing something wrongly, ideally you are supposed to investigate him, or her, as the case may be. If the person is found culpable, what happened to the judiciary and our criminal justice system? So the sanctions and all the rest. And of course, look, no matter, you see, the thing about life is that no matter how good you are, at least there are two other people that are better than you. And no matter how bad you are, there are at least two other people that are worse than you. So you cannot tell me, if somebody is found culpable and is removed, there is no any other better person in that community to replace him with. So these are the issues. So basically, it is not an excuse because people who are involved, you fish them out with them, get the right people at the right place, and give them sense of direction and support them. And with time, you can be able to make the difference. So basically, that is how it's supposed to be.
General, there are a lot of people who are saying that, to oversimplify, right, that this is an indictment on the capacity of the Nigerian army to protect the territorial integrity of this country. I suppose you're going to take this question personally.
No,
but don't you think
Why?
there's an iota of truth in that statement when we have foreign groups finding their way into this country willy-nilly, as if the door is just open for anybody to just come in and attack?
No, I'm not taking it personally.
Right.
And sincerely speaking, and I'm used to this kind of blame game in the Nigerian society. Nigerian army is not the only component that make up the security architecture of this country. In fact, when you go back, there are about 27 of them. Each and every one of them.
It is the foremost when it comes to territorial
It is the last on the rank.
Right. The Nigerian army is the last.
No, not in terms of last as far exams performance. What I want you to understand, there are first-time responders. There are people that are on the scene. Now, you see the problem we have in this country. We are experiencing all these problems simply because of one thing. What was it? We neglected our policing system. We neglected our policing system. Had it been that our policing system has been strengthened to meet up with this 21st century, crimes and criminality, we wouldn't have been talking about Nigerian army and all the rest. And again, we jettison our time-tested conflict resolutions mechanism. I'm not holding brief for them, but basically that is it. So you look at the circumstances under which they are operating. Now look at, who are the people that went to Tangada and Gudu today? It was the acting chief of army staff. So what happened to the other components of the security architecture? But remember, again, there are also military establishments. And I know for sure that beyond, even before his arrival, people were also there to make sure that had it been that maybe by now, had it been that they were able to meet them, by now you would have even heard the story. Of course, you have seen what the Air Force have done. A marvelous job in Kebbi and the rest of the places. So basically, these are the issues. It's what I want you to understand. I think we eschew the blame game. Rather, it should be viewed from the perspective that security is a collective responsibility. Everybody in the Nigerian society has a role to play. Right. Yes, the government has a leading role, but we have to reposition everybody to be on the same page.
Right.
So that the Nigerian army or the security forces will be able to deal with issues whenever they arise. But in the present circumstances, how will they? You cannot just go and start shooting to shoot who when the information is not timely, is not accurate. So you look at the circumstances, and to give kudos, let's look at even the counter-insurgency effort. Colombia had been contending with facts for 58 years. Here you have the security forces of Nigeria within 13 years you look at it, before you come to these studios, maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago, you know what you would have gone through. The number of checkpoints, you are not even so sure whether you go back home.
Right.
So basically that is it. I think we should give them credit.
Right.
Under the circumstances they are operating. What they require is our understanding, support and cooperation to succeed. But then it is not just the security architecture, but the whole components of Nigerian society.
Right. Interesting conversation, alarming situation, but we're going to have to anchor the conversation here. Brigadier General Kukasheka, as always, thank you for your expertise and for the analysis. We really appreciate you for stopping by tonight.
Thank you so much.
And that is our show for you on Sunday Politics tonight. Thank you most kindly for joining us. Feel free, as always, to check us out across our social media platforms to watch this and many other shows that we have for you on Trust TV. You can also visit our website, trusttv.com, for the latest news, programs and documentaries. Until next time, my name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Good evening.